Okay, so let's get started, man. We have Jordan in town, you've lived in London before, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I lived here. I moved from London about a little over 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I lived here since I was 21 years old, so a good solid 10 years.
Yeah. What did you do when you were in London?
When I moved to London, I was going to school for trade school to be an electrician, and that's when I originally moved here from Toronto, and kind of met somebody, and then I just fell in love with the city. I had a blast here.
Cool.
And I moved around from condo to condo, and then bought a house here, and I rented that out for quite a while. Lived in the basement, and I worked for Hydro One, so I've been all over the place, all over Ontario with Hydro, and it was a good central hub for how they looked after us. So it worked out well.
Right. So you went to school here in London to become an electrician?
Yeah. Well, my intermediate and advanced schooling I finished here in London. Yeah.
And then did you get a job with Hydro One, sort of fresh out of school?
Yeah, fresh out of intermediate. Actually, I met a friend of mine there. I'm not going to name names, but I met him there, and he's a good buddy of mine still to this day. And his dad was looking after a large area of hydro.
Yeah.
And got me on a pre-select list, and it was nice. Went for an interview and got in right away once school was done. And I finished off my apprenticeship with hydro.
That's nice when things happen sort of so smoothly like that,
clicked.
Right?
It was a nice transition. Yeah, I couldn't ask for anything more. It was great. I've always wanted to work for hydro too, so it was good.
Really?
Yeah.
So this was like your dream?
Yeah, back then, before I really understood, still trying to find myself, but as far as an electrician goes, no matter what it is that I do, I've always wanted to push myself to be the best I can be, but as an electrician goes, you're always growing and adapting to your surroundings, right? No matter what it is you do, you got to adapt, right?
100%.
Hydro was definitely kind of the end all and be all for me. I was really happy once I got in there.
So you love your job, do you?
I did. No, I absolutely did. There's days I don't love being an electrician, right? Just like anything. I think you have your ups and your downs, but it really boils down to passion. You got to have passion for what you're doing, right? And I guess it kind of got to a point where if I didn't have an option, and which I didn't, it's kind of you get to get up and go to work when you're not tired of sleeping. You got to get up to an alarm clock, and you got to do things some days you don't want to do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that just kind of started to wear on me, and I started to look for different avenues.
Yeah. Okay.
But as far as hydro went, I loved being up on the steel. Absolutely loved it.
Awesome. And you were always like, and we'll get into the traveling sort of down the road, but you're one of those people that sort of you're always on the go. Like I never know where you're going to be, even though home is, sometimes Aurelia, sometimes Barrie. What is your home base right now anyway?
Home base is Barrie.
Home base is Barrie.
The hometown Aurelia.
So you're still in the place that who your favorite realtor helped you with?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. That's me, by the way.
That's Sean. Yeah, Sean definitely hooked me up with that one. He got me in touch with a good friend of mine now, Allison Newell. And,
perfect.
Shout out to her if she's watching. Did a great job. I'm still working with her right now, working on some real estate developments up in Aurelia.
Good.
Some property we own.
Good.
So that's kind of next on the agenda that I've been working towards, and we got the cottage up on Severn. So I'm back and forth between up in Aurelia and Barrie, and then obviously here in London.
And out west a lot too. Still, is that Hydro One stuff or?
No, that was with a company called PCL.
Okay.
I've been off and on with them for quite a while as well. I actually just recently quit. I'm just again kind of at one of those life defining moments. Excuse me, and. I needed a change, and I had to get out of there, so I quit, I guess, about 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Did a little bit of work at home, and then decided to head to Mexico for a week.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I just got back from Mexico yesterday. It was great.
It's nice to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming in, man. We'll
cheers.
give you a cheers. It's interesting because usually these, for you and I, back in the past, it was always booze that we were cheersing with. Now we're cheersing with teeth. We've come a long way.
On a Friday night.
Friday night, sipping some nice Zen tea.
That's
perfect.
True. Not like our Super Bowl Sundays.
No, not like our Super Bowl Sundays. So speaking of which, let's go into the past a little bit because you have a very cool. I don't want to say it's cool. I'm sure it's dark at times for you to kind of relive it. But when you and I first met, I was really caught off guard by how open and honest you were about some of the shit that you've done in the past.
Yeah.
And you even went as far as to put yourself into a chapter of a book. Do I have that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us sort of how that happened and what led up to your story being something that was sort of book worthy?
Yeah, for sure. What happened was I was living here in London working for Hydro, and I got myself into a little bit of turmoil with Hydro. I said some not so good things to the wrong type of people, which I totally regret to this day. You know, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you to bounce up really high, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. I hit rock bottom. I got myself into some trouble. Had to go to the tribunal. Almost went to jail. Some bad things happened.
Just because of things you were saying?
Yeah, some things I said. I'm not going to go into detail on it.
You don't have to go into detail on anything you don't want to go into detail on.
It was a pretty heavy deal. It got me into a lot of trouble. It got me. I lost my job.
Okay.
All right. And once I lost my job, I started doing a lot of unethical work. I was dealing a lot of drugs.
Okay.
Doing a lot of drugs, dealing a lot of drugs, a lot of things I'm not too proud of.
Sure, been there. I think, a lot of people probably watching can relate to that if they're not still doing drugs and dealing drugs right now.
This is true.
So, this is where the story kind of gets interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. From doing all that, it was funny how quick, when you hit rock bottom and you've got musts and you've got whys, well, what's the difference?
Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan's also a motivational speaker, so you're going to hear a lot of that come through, which is great. I love it. I love your mindset. So you say you hit rock bottom. How so?
Well, when I lost my job, I was doing pretty good by most people's standards. I had my house, I had a couple of vehicles. Now, what do we got in life? We got residual bills, we got phone bills, we got internet, we got mortgage payments, car payments, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We all have these residual bills that we have to look after. Just because I lost my job doesn't mean I can say, hey, government, hook me up.
Sure.
I guess you could, but that's not me. And,
yeah.
and it only goes so far, right? So obviously I turned to dealing drugs because you can make a lot of money pretty quick.
Yep.
However, there's a lot of other ways you can make a lot of money fairly quick.
You can lose some money in that game pretty quick if you're not smart about it.
Yeah, and you can lose a lot more than just just some money, right? You can lose
jail time, hospitalized, sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
A lot of things by going that. Okay, yeah. So you went down that road and that started. And tell me about sort of those adventures.
Yeah, well, I started doing. As far as finance goes, really well.
Okay, so you were a good drug dealer.
I was a good drug dealer.
Okay, well,
I did quite well. I was going on a lot more vacations than what I was going on when I was with Hydro. I made more money than I was making with Hydro. A lot of pool parties, a lot of partying.
Really?
And things were getting out of hand, and I was getting very paranoid. Things were getting not so good. And when...
what did you ever do when people owed you money? Did you ever have to take things like, are there things where you weren't proud of, where you had to go threaten people? And because I know
some violence. There's some violence from time to time. There's a little bit of blood from time to time. Some definitely some things I regret.
Yeah.
Some people I've reached out to since then, and I've apologized.
Good for you,
dearly,
man.
And,
good for you.
Tried to come clean, and some of them weren't so.
Yeah, well, sometimes forgiveness is a hard thing.
It
right?
is. And, one thing with forgiveness, you really got to be extremely angry in order to find compassion and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right? And that's important that most people, understand that, because you have to get angry to have the forgiveness and the compassion behind it. And that's how you're going to release that. And some people had it, some people didn't. But, I tried to be diligent to, reach out.
And I think I can appreciate that. Everybody makes mistakes.
Totally.
Obviously, you don't want to be someone that's going and banging on people's doors or breaking their legs and then trying to apologize. We're not kind of condoning that behavior, but good for you for at least understanding that you made these mistakes. Absolutely. It takes a strong man and a big man to reach out to people that they've harmed. Like, that's a fucking hard thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, I didn't have, I just didn't care. I didn't care what the outcome was. I knew there's some serious things could happen to me. I could be going to jail, I could be losing my life, losing everything, losing my freedom. These are things...
Yeah, why do you think you just didn't care? I'm curious, because I've been there too, man. I've been at that spot where you're doing drugs and you're dealing drugs or whatever you're doing, and you just don't give a fuck. Like, it's just... What do you think brings that on?
For me, it was the lifestyle.
It was just
wanted... Very simple answer. It's the lifestyle that comes with that adrenaline rush of doing so well. Things, when the whole book came about, I'll get to that in a minute, but as far as the dealing goes, I was dealing every type of drug you can think of other than heroin.
Really?
And I was dealing a lot of it. I was flying.
We've talked about
it. I'm not going to go.
You don't have to go into full detail if you don't want to.
Yeah,
but
it's. At the end of the day, this could be fiction. So
that's true. We could be pulling your whole leg. Yeah,
that's what my publisher told me too. So Yeah, I was moving a lot of narcotics back and forth from British Columbia to Toronto to Montreal.
So you were kind of in the high level, or at least dealing with high level guys.
Absolutely. There's a lot of money on the line, a lot of risk involved.
Fuck.
Sometimes upwards of $500,000 per load.
Wow.
Yeah, there was things I'm not proud of at all. And I look back at that and I think, wow, I can't believe I did that and actually got away with it. And you know, there's a couple times where I almost didn't, and because of a buddy of mine, in one particular instance, owed some money to the wrong people, ended up taking a fall for me, and that was supposed to be my fall.
Really?
And I dodged a bullet big time. And then there was another instance in Hamilton.
Do you keep in contact with that guy?
I do.
Yeah, because that's fucking loyalty.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. I mean,
we're
obviously,
still really good friends. He's moved away.
Yeah.
But no, I was talking with him last week actually.
Really?
Yeah.
And how's his life?
He's doing really well.
Good.
He's doing really, really well.
Good.
Legit too.
Yeah.
Legit.
And I bet, like, in your, like, knowing you the way that I do now and knowing what a big heart you have, if he was doing shitty when you're doing well, you'd probably still step up and be like, man, you took a bullet for me, I'll help you out in whatever way I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was times where he reached out to me and needed money, and I was very quick to just dish it out for him.
Sure.
I mean, he owes me a little bit of money, but I owe my life.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
fair enough.
I could care less. You know
Right.
what I mean? There's little things like that you can't put a price tag on.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so you were continuing. You're saying he took a bullet for you, and he took a fall, and then something about, I think, British Columbia. You said.
Well, yeah, he's gone out there. This is where the fall went, and after that, there was another issue that happened with some other fellas that I was involved with. This was a completely other organization of narcotics that I was dealing with, and that happened in Hamilton, and that fella is still in jail.
Really?
And I just happened to be in Vegas when it all went down. There's a big write-up in the newspaper.
So you could have been part of that bust.
My name was in the newspaper. There's a couple police officers involved. It was a really big issue, huge deal that went down. And I got a phone call while I was in Vegas. And the cool thing is, well, I guess not cool, but interesting to say the way that everything played out was I was in Vegas taking a look at a business opportunity to get away from what I was doing.
To get out of it.
Yeah, I knew I could make more money going legit and not be looking over my shoulder or worrying about jail time.
That's a nice thing to have. That's a big chip on your shoulder, man.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
To always be. I don't know how people fucking carry it, dude. Like
I don't either. I got to the point where I wasn't sleeping at night. I'm peeking around corners. It makes you sick to your stomach.
Yeah.
Like thinking about it makes me nauseous right now. Just kind of reliving it all sometimes, right?
Well, I appreciate you sharing it, man, because it's going to help people that are in that fucking stink hole. And as you know, I mean, I lost a roommate. I was doing the same shit, mind you, but I lost a roommate to addiction, to cocaine, and I watched drugs literally destroy him right in front of my eyes. So,
it's terrible.
Yeah, so I mean, even though we've both been in those situations, I mean, I think back and I think like, man, I was a piece of shit when I was doing that. And I think that the people that are out there dealing right now, like obviously I look at them as kind of pieces of shit. Some of them I still like, but I wish that they changed their ways. Like I can't associate with people like that anymore. I watched what they did to my fucking best buddy.
Yeah. And
so
that's like playing on your inner circle, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure when you're doing it, you've got that inner core group of guys, and we are the average of the 5 closest people we hang out with, right? And when you've got that group, that close-knit group of guys that you're going to die for, You've got each other's back, you're going to take a punch for whatever happens, right? But when everything goes down and you make that defining decision in your life to walk away from it, now there's that issue, right?
Yeah.
Like to step away from that,
and it's not easy to step away, right? I mean, it's
like you said, it's like you look at them kind of like dicks, but I mean, you still have that friendship for them, but it's like, okay, I'm not going to spend, my whole week with you. I might meet you for a coffee just to see how you're doing, and hopefully you're moving away from it. I'm not going to totally break ties, but it's important that you hold on to relationships, good or bad,
I agree with you.
People can feel and heal from that just by you hanging on, knowing that you care.
And
people.
And I want everyone that's sort of in that lifestyle, like everyone that I used to party with, everyone that's still shoving shit up their noses or whatever you're doing. Like I'm still here to, if you ever need to reach out to anyone, I'm still here for you, and I hope you realize that. But like, we're gonna have a stern talk about sort of what I watched happen to someone right in front of me that could have easily happened to me, by the way. And try to sort of get your life back on a different path, because at the end of the day, it's fucking not worth it, man. It's just not. And kids are dying. I mean, with this fentanyl and shit like that coming into play, like, holy fuck.
Well, look what we heard tonight about Detroit.